Hello there YouTube, welcome to Night's Arcade. I'm Sleepless Night and I've been playing Fallout 76 Beta. If you want to know what I think of it so far, stay right there and I'll be right back after I've turned the magic light on. So, Fallout 76 Beta launched last night, and it has proven, as was the run-up, to be one of the most divisive video games I think I've ever seen. Those of you who've watched this channel long enough will know that I was in two minds over this game myself when it was first announced. My initial reaction, as a single-player RPG gamer and a fan of the Fallout series, was, like so many other Fallout fans, along the lines of, No, how could you do this? You've betrayed us all. You might as well just have stripped us all naked, ripped us apart like the hearts you've just broken and impaled us on spikes in the wasteland of our broken dreams to be eaten alive by the death claws of despair. But this is why I try not to make reaction videos within the first few hours of an announcement, because I know I will regret it once I've calmed down. And calm down I did. Because when all is said and done, we knew this was very early indeed for it to be a new traditional Fallout game, and Elder Scrolls Online should have given us some indication that adding multiplayer to their arsenal was just something Bethesda were going to be doing from this point on. So I pre-ordered Fallout 76, intent on giving the game and Bethesda the fair hearing that every person and creative company deserves before we start burning effigies of them in the streets. So, last night, I delved into the rich and surprisingly colourful world of Fallout 76's West Virginia, and I have to say that so far, it hasn't been the dreadful nightmare I suspected it would be right back in the beginning. I played it with my buddy Kuzuri-San, who you'll be familiar with if you're a regular follower of this channel, and he said to me quite early on in our playthrough, just like Fallout 4 was made to look like the bombs fell over 200 years ago, Fallout 76 actually does look like only a couple of decades have passed. And it's true, the world is still a wasteland, but it's a slightly more colourful one than we're used to. Trees still have foliage in some places, vehicles still have a lot of their paint. In fact, as someone who often tends to get hung up on a single insignificant detail, I found myself obsessing over a bus that I found near Vault 76 which still had all its windows. I have been aboard many abandoned buses in Fallout games, but never one with windows in it. Why that became such a big thing for me, I've got no idea, but I just walked around it in circles for ages. Of course, anyone who's ever lived out in the countryside has probably seen vehicles that have sat abandoned for 25 years and knows very well that they don't look like this, but that's just the kind of minutiae that I can spend 30 minutes obsessing over, so moving on. Like most sprawling open-world games, the first couple of hours can feel a little clunky and unfamiliar, especially if you've spent more than a year away from the franchise, as I have. But eventually, things start to fall into place and you begin to get the idea. There are some things about the new multiplayer Fallout mechanic that I struggled with at first, and other players are the most obvious one. In one particular instance, it's the immersion break that you feel the first time you see someone called XXX Fist Killer 37XXX making a heart shape with his hands right up in your grill, but that sort of thing is easier to forget once the players leave the safety of the vault and start to fan out. This being the first 4 hours of beta, it is inevitable that players will clump together in the same little stretches of the map as they follow the same initial steps laid out by the overseer of Vault 76 in the main quest line. But it's a big world out there, and you're only going to have to deal with between 24 and 32 other players over the entirety of the game map. 16 square miles is a lot of world to get lost in, and if you decide to play this by yourself, my guess is you're going to feel lonely a lot of the time once the players have all started to diverge from the main quest and spread out across the map. And this is one of the things I'm looking forward to about Fallout 76, honestly. Sure, there aren't settlements and cities full of NPCs, although there are a lot of machines out there in the wastes of West Virginia, but if you really want that feeling of exploration, either alone or with friends, I'm pretty confident you're going to get a lot of that from Fallout 76. Now, having said that, you will appear on everyone else's map, so inevitably you are going to have the occasional encounter with testosterone-fueled troublemakers all hopped up on Skittles and looking for someone to mess with because they're angry at their daddy for buying them that new car in just the wrong shade of red. But these are likely to be few and far between, as the much talked about slap damage system really does make it a lot of hard work and effort, not to mention potentially quite costly, to kill other players in this game if they don't want to be killed. PvP damage is completely turned off until you reach level 5, and although you will reach this level very quickly indeed, even after that the damage is so minimal you will barely notice it, unless you choose to engage the aggressor, at which point full damage is immediately activated, and you can mash one another's faces in with hooked pipe wrenches and flaming pool cues to your heart's content. Go for it! Get creative! From my few brief stints at the various crafting benches, I can tell you that they won't disappoint Fallout 4 players. Some of the weapons you can create, even at this early stage, are pretty grisly looking devices. Now, exactly how this will all translate into firing off nukes once players get to that stage, I have no idea, but there's a kind of grim curiosity we all seem to have about that, which I'm sure will be satisfied just within a few days of beta gameplay. Immediately after the server shut down, I logged onto Twitter to get a general feeling for people's first impressions of this new Fallout world and to share my own, and most were pretty much as I suspected: excitement and praise for a completely new Bethesda animal which they couldn't wait to get back to, if only to see whether it brings you your newspaper in slippers or spends all its time evacuating its bowels on your brand new deep pile IKEA rug. But in amongst all the mixed reactions of excitement and uncertainty, I saw just 2 or 3 people asking, who is this game for? And, I don't get it, who's going to play this? Puzzled by this question, I read through 1 or 2 of these threads, and the theme seemed to be that this game is suited to neither single-player story-loving loners nor hardcore PvPers. So who is ever going to play this? Now, this is a fine question, but it rather coldly and unfairly divides all gamers in the world into 2 definitive camps. Single-player-only hermits who want to shut out real life and lose themselves in virtual environments, only coming up for air when the plastic bottle next to their chair simply will not hold any more urine. A club I would be a proud card-carrying member of, if not for the fact that no one will ever see that card because I don't go outside. Or full-on, cigar-chewing PvP killbots who just want to burn down their virtual playgrounds and anyone who dares to set foot inside them, or even has the nerve to talk about the colour of shoes they're going to wear to set foot inside them. This perceived black and white classification completely ignores the millions of gamers who simply want to share the new and exciting experience of exploring their favourite games with a friend or 2, seeing it all for the first time together, without having to worry that gangs of cocky grenade jugglers will just try to blow you apart. Don't you remember being a kid? Inviting friends over to huddle round a TV in your bedroom and take turns playing through the levels of Sonic the Hedgehog or Tomb Raider? You remember the kind of gamer so many of us used to be before we took an arrow to the knee. There are so many people who would enjoy this kind of experience, just as there are so many who would completely hate it. Can't we try catering to them all? What about racers? What about turn-based strategy players? What about those people who play nothing but puzzle games? What about those people who still seem to think Echo the Dolphin was good? Gamers, like the people who comprise this ever-growing demographic, come in all shapes and sizes. There is room for all of us. If you're a fan of Fallout, as I am, there will inevitably be changes you just won't like, but they are necessary for the format. You can no longer go to sleep and wake up fresh and unblemished as a newborn 80-kilogram baby. Healing does still happen as you sleep, but you have to sit there and awkwardly watch yourself as your health creeps back up. But it honestly doesn't take all that long, so don't wander off to make tea or anything. The biggest issue, honestly, for most of us, myself included, is the VAT system, which, necessitated by the multiplayer format, has been redesigned in much the same way that a commercial airliner is redesigned when it flies into the side of a large mountain at 300 miles an hour. This is so far my biggest gripe. Maybe we'll all get used to real-time VATs as we play more of the game. Maybe in time we'll wonder why we ever doubted its implementation. Who knows? But at this point, that doesn't seem very likely. It's clunky, it's confusing, it's unhelpful, it's a good way to get yourself killed. It just doesn't work, as far as I can see. Then, of course, there are the things I didn't expect to enjoy, but did. The public events, which pop up on your heads-up display or are found on the map, are a lot of fun, and a really good way to get players to rally together around a common goal for the benefit of themselves and others in the form of XP and caps rewards. There may be some which pit players against one another, but I haven't seen one yet, and you would of course be free to ignore these if such a thing exists. All in all, I think Fallout 76 is off to a fairly good start. I honestly expected bugs galore, but there were mercifully few during the hours that I played yesterday. Some difficulty working out how to join a friend's game, a few weird floaty things here and there, and poor old Kuzuri-San stood helplessly by on one occasion while the rest of us soaked up XP defending food presses from rampaging ghouls and irritating little Chinese propaganda bots because he got stuck between some pipes. But we've all done that whilst playing hide and seek in the plumbing section at Wix. However you feel about Fallout 76, I predict it's here to stay, and I will occasionally bring you little bits of game footage from the West Virginia wasteland over the coming weeks and months. We hope to incorporate some Fallout 76 playtime into what Night Tales is now in the process of becoming, but there are still a few bits of work to be done on this new collaborative show, and I'm even having to pay someone to do one little aspect of it before it begins, but you'll see what that is once we start up again. It's nothing major, it's just a thumbnail thing. As for my own Let's Plays, they are a little erratic this month while I switch things around and redesign things and deal with the various schedules that this week's new games are forcing us all into. But we'll be back to a more regular schedule very, very soon, so don't go anywhere, it will only be very temporary. I'm going to leave you there, but I just wanted to say a big thank you to everyone who was kind enough to take the time to comment and give their opinions about the new direction of my Let's Plays. I'm really sorry if I haven't answered your comments recently. I have read them all, and I do try my very best to answer them, but I'm so crazy busy at the moment I just haven't found much time for it. So they're piling up and getting away from me a bit, and I'm going from the oldest comments to the newest. So if I haven't answered you yet, I apologise, but thank you so much for the input. That's all from me. There will be Red Dead Redemption 2 Let's Plays later in the week and more from Fallout 76 Beta in the days ahead. But until then, from Night's Arcade, this is Sleepless Night saying nighty-night.